welcome everybody. This is going to be an app demo of the RODBT diary card skills and app for radically open dialectical behavior therapy. And so what's about to happen is that I'm going to be pulling up the app on my phone, and then Lori's going to help sort of walk us through it a little bit, and then we will have time for some Q&A. If there's any kind of functionality that you're kind of curious about or anything we didn't cover, please type it in the Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say who we were here. So this is Hope and then Lori as well. And then, so some housekeeping. You are muted because we had a ton of registrants, and we also are hoping that we will be able to present this on the YouTube channel as well. So you may be watching it via the RODBT, a Radically Open YouTube channel as well. This is being recorded, just so you know. And then, so any questions that we pull up or that you enter into the chat will be able to be seen through that recording. So just a heads up on that. And there will be more time for Q&A at the end. We'll do the demo first, and then we'll do the actual Q&A part here. So, okay, so I'm gonna stop that share, and I'm gonna go to another kind of sharing here. And that will be me sharing my phone. So, oh, it was working just a second ago. Here we go, cancel. Here we go. Okay, so sorry about that. That's the background of my niece. So she's got a facial mask on and is making a silly face, which I think is kind of appropriate given this is an RODBT thing. So silliness is alive and real. We were not planning that, but now it's kind of funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the app, and then I'm going to be quiet for a few more minutes, and then Lori's going to be kind of directing us what to do as we go here. Okay.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have logged in, by the way, in my email and my password. So that's what's about to. This is after you've done that. That's just a home screen for us.
Yeah. And so Hope, if you want to click up on the, app speak for hamburger icon is the 3 lines. So if you ever see that, if anybody says, click on the hamburger icon, it's that 3 lines. And you'll see that we have a lot of different options. But for today, I thought we would start with our weekly setup. So if you can click on that 4th one down, it says weekly setup. And it gives you a choice of what day you want to start. And so if for some reason you totally forgot to start your diary card on Monday, then you can click on the orange date, Tuesday, and you can actually scroll back in time to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You can't go back.
Not forever.
Not forever. Usually it's within a week to set it up is best. So let's go ahead and click on today's date and hit continue.
Sure.
Okay, so on our social signaling and overt behaviors targets, you can either just type it in, whatever the signaling is, clicking on the next one, going down, as many as you want.
There's 8 actually. Yeah,
up to 8. And if you scroll up, then there is something that says to save at the bottom. Or sorry, scroll down. There's a save and continue. Can you scroll back up? Hope?
Sure.
So you'll notice at the top, there is a toggle where it says remove show past targets. So if you want to remember what your targets were from the previous week, or edit them, take some away or add some, then you can toggle there to add or remove them. And there's also a thing on if you have any questions about social signaling. So let's go ahead and save and continue.
Great.
So same kind of setup on private behaviors. You can show your past targets, or you can type in new targets, adjust them as you wish. And you'll notice there's a little X on the far right side by angry. So if you wanted to remove it, that's where you would do that.
Yeah. And then I'll Add some past targets here.
Great. And then
Test.
hit...
Sometimes we do testing.
And then hit save and continue.
Great.
In our valued goals, if you click on the questions,
Oops.
I wanted to show them that. Sure. It does prompt you on how to find your valued goals. So if you're working with a therapist, they might ask you these questions, or if you're doing it on your own, you can do that way. And then you can type there or bring forward from your last week.
Let's just type in a few and open or to new situations. Save and continue. Okay.
So sometimes when you're doing setting up a diary card in session, the therapist might prompt you to work on a particular self-inquiry question that week. So you might want to go ahead and enter that there. And there's also, if you click on see the questions, it has all of the self-inquiry questions that are found in the RO skills workbook are listed by category there. And so you could choose one of those questions in addition to or instead of your own self-inquiry question, or you can leave it blank if that's not where you are or where your client is.
So maybe I picked two from bitterness here this week. Okay.
Cool. And so those are saved. You can hit save and continue.
And if you notice, the questions also pop up above the ones that you type in, which is kind of cool too.
Yep.
Okay.
So this notes section typically would be, if you're the therapist, these would be maybe your solution analysis that you're providing to the client, or if you're the client, the solution analysis that you've worked on with your therapist. And one of the cool things about this notes section, as well as the self-inquiry question section, is that once we start looking at the homepage, there are reminder things that, so these notes, these notes will actually pop up for you so that you can see them on the home screen as a reminder throughout the week.
Yeah. Okay, save and continue.
Cool. And then you have a choice of up to 5 skills that you can choose to have as reminders on that reminder page on your home page. And the way we have it set up is either by categories. So, if you're working on flexible responding, then there are certain skills you might use, or living by my values. There might be particular ones you want to choose there. In the next section, by numbers, if you are one of those people who has the book memorized by numbers,
which does happen.
Which, yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's 17. Okay, so let's go to 17. It might be easier for you to find than under categories. I've been practicing a lot of Roxanne lately, so
good. So maybe we'll click that one today.
And you'll also notice that there's a past week bubble. So if you had particular ones that you had been tracking, then those would fill out there.
Mine just doesn't have it because we were doing test demoing. So I will save and continue the 17.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay. And now you're ready to track.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Woohoo!
All right.
So on this tracking screen, you'll notice at the top, again, there's that date. So if for some reason you didn't just set up your diary card, but let's say it is Friday and you set it up on Monday and you forgot to track, then you can go to daily tracking and you can use that scroll to find to backdate your diary card entries. So let's go ahead and go to today so it doesn't get confused. And on the social signaling, you'll see we have all of our targets. and they're scaled on a 0 to 5. And so you can just mark those and save and continue.
One more point here. It is on a 0 to 5 scale, which most people do things on a scale. If you are doing a yes or no, yes would be 5, no would be 0. Great.
Awesome.
So then it gives us this cute little check mark. Yay! I love it. Yay! You've done such a good job. Okay. We love some check marks in here.
So we'll do the same thing in our private behaviors. And then in the risk factors, that is where we have our urge to commit suicide on a 0 to 5 scale, whether or not you took any drugs or alcohol. And then if you took your meds as prescribed. And so if you took unprescribed medication, or not PRN medication, but medication that you should not take, I would put that in the drugs section.
I'm gonna just type in scary med. So what various reasons? Okay. So we'll save.
And we'll save. And then in the RO skills, you can check which of the ones you use from the ones you selected and hit save.
Okay.
So then excellent tracking. So then in the daily notes, that is where you can write anything down that will help to prompt you or prompt your client. If you're the therapist, oh, we had an argument.
We did. You didn't know it, but now we did. Congratulations. And then
yeah, so this would just help as the reminder for what you were scoring your numbers as.
Yeah.
And then you can save and continue. The weekly notes and the self-inquiry journal, that's the weekly notes is what you have already done. But if you did want to shift something in there, you can add things there.
Okay. And self-inquiry journal,
Mm-hmm.
we want to write in one. We might be doing all kinds of things here.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk a little bit about the functionality of that self-inquiry?
So this is one of the places that you can access the self-inquiry journal, but we can also access it from the home screen. So one of the things to note about the self-inquiry journal is that the self-inquiry journal is private. And so it does not get sent, it cannot be sent out of the app. So, you know, if a client is sending their diary card, if they choose to send it to their therapist, the self-inquiry will not be attached to that.
Okay. Way to go.
Let's go home.
Mm-hmm.
And look at some of the other stuff. So you'll notice there's that big green box on the bottom that says daily tracking. So you can get to where we just were from there, as well as from the hamburger icon. Right above that is the show weekly practice. And you can see that we have the valued goals we put in, and you can actually scroll through there to see the self-inquiry questions to remind you of your notes, and also something we haven't talked about yet, but your skills class homework.
Let's go talk about skills class homework.
Yeah, so you're going to click on the hamburger icon, which is the 3 lines, and you'll see right under settings, there's a thing that says class homework. And so you can type in what your skills class homework was so that you don't forget. There we go. And there's also
you can also turn on that it shows up. So you have to turn it on. And in addition, below the class homework, I would just want to say that notification could be really helpful. So maybe I want it to let me know that I need to track right before bedtime. So I would maybe say 10 p.m. and I make sure I turn that on.
Yes. There's also, just because we're up here, below in that settings section, there is information about the privacy policy, about Grow RO.
Oh, yeah. If you're wondering where frequently asked questions are, click on some of that as well. It takes you to the website that has some frequently asked questions. Sorry, this is Felix, everybody. He's such a usual staple in my life that I sometimes forget that he is there. Okay, going back.
Okay, so let's go back to the home page.
Mhm.
And on the very bottom of the screen, you'll see that there are 4 different icons. The first is RO skills. And so we can click on that. And again, it has it by category and number. This is really meant as a reference. It is not a replacement for your skills manual. But if you click on the different skills, it does give breakdowns for what does it mean, or what are we doing? What does the acronym stand for?
Yeah. For this one, it's kind of cool.
Mhm.
We have a specific thing to play in the toolkit.
Yep. And we worked with Dr. Lynch to make sure that the categories, that he really felt good about the categories that we had set up for this.
So they're activate social safety system, build awareness, build openness, explore moods and emotions, flexible responding, living by your values, and self-inquiry. Now, and social connection. So what we suggest that you do is, if you're kind of in a bind and you're not really sure what skill to help yourself or remind you, you might go to this by category and really think, okay, do I want to build awareness? Or maybe I want to build openness. Maybe I need to do something with my mood, or think about flexible responding, or my values. And then you can kind of go, these are the skills underneath that category that might be helpful. And again, by Lori's favorite, the number category. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Cool. And I mean, even so, for therapists or for clients, kind of beginning to think about by category is helpful. What skills might be helpful here.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and go to the home screen.
Mm-hmm.
In the toolkit right now, and toolkit is right next to RO skills.
There we go.
Right now we have the loving kindness meditation, both a male and female voice. We're hoping to have more features later, but right now that's what we have in the toolkit. If you're wondering, how do I send my diary card? So you go to the archive. And when you click on archive, it will have a list of all of the diary cards that you have set up. So if you click on one of those, it shows you kind of a big picture view of what the diary card is. And then you can click send diary card via email and put your name in and the recipient's email, which might be yourself or maybe someone else if you would like to send it to someone else.
The number one error we get is clients or people sending the card to their therapist with the therapist's name at the top. And really, most of the time, what you're looking for is your name, the filler outer of the diary card. So in my case, it would be Hope. And then maybe Lori's my therapist. So I would be sending her Lori at amazing.com, which I won't actually send, but you kind of get my point, like that these would be different people. Yeah.
And
Okay.
if you want to send it with your initials or something else, you can always do that as well.
Yes.
And when it sends, it will send a diary card that looks like the traditional RO diary card. It does not look like this. It's in the grid format.
And I can probably pull one of those up at some point too.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's one last section, which is our self-inquiry journal. And so if you click new entry, it has instructions at the top, if you want to click on that. And so it kind of talks about how to do self-inquiry.
Great.
keeping it short. And then if you scroll down, hold on, Hope.
Oh, sorry. I got excited to type in test there. My bad.
If you click on self-inquiry questions, it has all of the lists of the self-inquiry questions, so that if in drop-down form, so if we click on like effectiveness in relationship using self-inquiry, it'll have all the questions. So you can use one of those as a prompt for your self-inquiry practice, or you can come up with your own question. And if you do that, could you, then it'll pop it up, and then you can fill out your self-inquiry journal there.
Then we want to save it.
Mm-hmm. And it will stay listed in that self-inquiry journal place, but again, it will not send it to anyone. It will live within the app.
Yep.
So
great. Okay.
and
Go ahead.
I believe that I was just going to say, I believe that's it.
I do believe that's it also. And so I'm going to take a look. We have one question that came in, and then we'll, I'm not sure if the question will require us to.
Let's just leave it up for now.
Sure.
So the question is, are these supposed to be behaviors you want to do or behaviors you do not want to do?
Great. Good question. So the answer to this question is we're targeting behaviors that we want to change. And so the social signals that we want to change, like if you see in some of my examples here, maybe if I go to the daily tracking and I'm looking back at my social signals, if I start a sentence with a no, for example, every sentence, maybe Lori asked me a question, I say no, but, or I go, no, I don't really think it's like that. It shows a little bit of disagreeability. And so one of the things that I might not want to be doing is starting a sentence with a no. Also, maybe I'm agreeing if I don't mean it. And then what ends up happening is I get myself in all kinds of pickles as a result of that. That might be something I want to change. Social signals might be things that you and your therapist have decided on. There might be things that your spouse, friend, lover, you know, for anybody in your life gives you feedback about that you might want to work on. So if you don't necessarily have an individual therapist that's helping you target this stuff, it could also be things that you might know are things that you want to work on. And they need to be behaviorally specific, and they need to be things that others can see from the outside. The reason it's called overt behaviors up there is because sometimes we do things that other people might not necessarily be a social signal because we're not in front of them. For example, like not responding to texts. That's not necessarily a social signal, but it's definitely an overt behavior that sends a message like, I don't care about that person, or maybe they're not important to me, even if, and this is the biggest thing, the intent and the signal might be two different things. So I might not want to, the intention might not be that I want to seem disagreeable with starting sentences with a no, but the signal is. Great. Okay. So we're going to check. So that's the only question that we have. So let me kind of go back to the home screen here. And if there's any other questions, this is the time that we'd be happy to open them and ask any other kinds of questions. We do sometimes get a question about what happens about login, or I can't log in to my app. What we actually suggest that you do, log out, close the app, restart it, like you would just kind of do for any other app, and see if it gives a go. If worst comes to worst, we suggest that you delete the app and re-download it. And that tends to solve almost everything, actually.
Yep. And I was always scared, like I paid for this app. Like if I delete it, what happens? But if you have paid for it, then you re-download it and it doesn't cost you anything else. So it is there on your account. And that is frequently, every time I contact the developers and say, this person is having a problem, they say, did they delete and reinstall the app?
Yeah, and it's kind of like what we have to do sometimes is reboot our computers, and because there are updates that are going on from iOS and all these other things. Sometimes it gets a little hairy and tricky about what's happening.
Yep.
Okay. Can you think of any other big frequently asked questions to just sort of talk about while I've got 3 whole minutes here before we stop?
No, I think those are the primary ones. You know, I always think it's great. You know, if you're a client, I think it's great to set up your app in session. If you're a therapist, I think it's great to set up the targets in session, because, you know, we all get forgetful sometimes, and it's easy to forget to set up your app.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
your diary card. So,
and this really is a companion to treatment. And not that you can't use it on your own, but sometimes clients are just in skills class alone and then having targets. Sometimes they're in full RO treatment. If you're doing this all on your own and you haven't been through any skills class or you haven't been through treatment, then some of this will be a little bit more confusing than if you are having some sort of guidance from a therapist.
So we had another question about giving a couple of more examples of private behaviors.
Sure, let's go look. So let's see some of the things that we have here. So a private behavior, by its definition, is anything somebody can't see that's going on inside of you. So if Lori's going like, oh my gosh, that color of blue just looks so amazing on Hope. Or she's like, how unprofessional that Hope's cat is always in the video. You know, she could be having a thought about me. She could be having emotion about me. She could be feeling love towards me, or she could be feeling irritation. She also might be having a physical sensation, like right now, maybe her stomach hurts, but we don't know it. And she wouldn't necessarily know that unless she was like retching, you know, which would be the social signal. But if it's just private on the inside, or if she has a headache, we don't know that unless she tells us.
Yeah.
We might have an urge to correct something I'm saying, or an urge to take over the webinar. And then I think, am I missing one, Lori? Did I get them all?
So we have urges, emotions, thoughts, and sensations.
Great.
Are going to be the primary,
the big ones. Yeah.
And typically they're paired with the social signal or the overt behavior.
So for example, if you remember from my starting something with a no might be, and in the inside, I feel like I disagree, but on the outside, I'm saying no. And even though those are congruent at times, that's not always the case. Sometimes I might be saying, oh yes, I'd love to do that, and feeling very irritated. But on the outside, I look like, oh, everything's fine. And I'd love to help you move, Lori. Wouldn't that be just a gem of a weekend for me? But I'm feeling very irritated that she's maybe asked me to move. So these things probably go hand in hand. The private behaviors are to help you understand sometimes that the social signal is going to happen. And that's kind of how you can think about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Great question. Okay. So we are at time. We said 30 minutes and we wanted to kind of stay to that. If you have another question or two here, we'll be happy to stay on. If not, we're going to stop. And this video will be available, like we said, on the YouTube channel, which we're really excited to be able to do that. And hopefully we, you know, if people have additional questions, you know, please always let us know. And if you do have questions about app functionality or something like that, we're happy for you to email us at info@grow-ro.com. And thank you so much for paying attention today. That's awesome. Great. Okay, now let me stop my sharing and y'all can see my beautiful niece's face again. I think. Oh no, it's just regular. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.